I'm Vicki Hogarth, and welcome to Southwest Magazine. My guest today is children's book author Janet Robinson, who wrote Never Wake a Sleeping Nanny, and is here with her follow-up, You Can Have Mine. Thank you so much, Janet, for being here today.
Thank you very much to have me here on your show.
I want to talk about, people would probably recognize you as a teacher from George Street School in Fredericton. You were there for 37 years.
Yes, I had a 37-year career. I spent 22 of them at George Street. My last 15, I was a school guidance counselor. So I've got lots of inspiration and topics of things to write about.
Well, you have 3 grandchildren. The inspiration for book 1, which came out in 2022,
yes,
happened when your granddaughter Lennon was born.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about what inspired you to become a children's book author. I'm sure when you have a lifelong teaching career like you do, some of the ideas have just been there for years.
Yes.
But what was it about your granddaughter's birth that inspired the first book?
Well, she is the youngest of 3, but when she came home from the hospital, I was there to kind of help out and stuff. My daughter was resting. I'm holding this newborn, and it just overwhelmingly hit me that she is the 4th generation that lived in that house, because it was my parents' home, the home I grew up in. My daughter bought the home from my mom, and then she brings her first child home. So that is the inspiration, or the inspiration behind my first book, and for the wanting to write a children's book. So I just held her and I was saying, never wake a sleeping nanny, for she's dreaming about you. You are the apple of her eye. I know this much is true. And that line just stuck, and the Never Wake a Sleeping Nanny became the title.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's all melancholy. It's all about my grandmother, my mother, and me being a grandmother.
Sitting in that house with those memories of your own grandmother, and now your new role as a grandmother in your own grandchildren's lives. What is it about a grandma, in your point of view, that is so special? What does that relationship offer to a child?
I think that grandparents are very important in the lives of their grandchildren. We are the biggest cheerleaders. We're there to support, to love. We aren't there to discipline. We're there to just love these kids. I lived next door to my grandmother growing up, just across the lawn. My dad used to plow a little path from her house to ours so we could go back and forth. And having her around was just that extra parent kind of thing. But she was always the nice one. You had sleepovers at her house. She treated you. She spoiled you. And I just want to do the same.
What was it about you that you wanted to do a trilogy of books? This is book 2 that we have out now, You Can Have Mine. You have a 3rd book coming out, I imagine, in about a year from now or so. Why not just one book? Why continue telling stories? And what more did you have to say after the first book?
Well, I got these 3 ideas quite quickly. I wrote these 3 books, and I have it on the back of the book that it's a trilogy. But it's growing. It's growing in popularity. The Nanny series is what they're called. And I think the Nanny series is taking its wings. Like I have many more ideas. I jot them down. I want to see Nanny doing all kinds of different things as the kids get older, and just like the first book, it's a very young child. The second book, they're getting a little older. And the 3rd one, they're a little bit older.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you said that before we started filming, that a lot of the times when you have your book readings, whether you're at Chapters or at a local bookstore in Fredericton, that is a lot of grandmothers that come out too with their grandchildren. So you've created this network of events almost for grandmothers to spend time with their grandkids.
Thank you.
Why are they connecting so much to the book?
Well, I originally wrote it thinking it was going to be for children, and it is. I mean, young readers, early readers. But it's so nostalgic that I find that people are buying the nanny books for their grandmother or for a new grandmother. It's become a good shower gift, and someone who's going to be a new mom or a new grandmother. And I think they're connecting on that level because they're remembering their relationship with their grandparent, and they're just starting off being a grandmother, and they want to do the same.
Has that connected you to a network of other grandmothers as well that can share things that might accidentally inspire an idea for a book as well?
Yeah, when I go to my book signings at Chapters or wherever I'm going, I hear all kinds of stories. You know, I've got people saying, you know, my grandmother passed, but she used to do these things, and I will point out something, you know, and they'll say, "Oh, my grandmother did that too," and I'll be like, "She said, you can have mine. She used to say that too," and like little this and that. Yeah, she used to say that too. So I don't know. I meet lots of people, but they're always reminiscent about their grandmother and sharing with me. The grandmother's not so much. I'm just hearing from the grandchildren about their grandmother.
Can we hear a little bit about, you're going to read excerpts at the end of this show from You Can Have Mine, but what was the inspiration behind the message of that book?
And You Can Have Mine?
Yeah.
Yep. The second book, I wanted to dedicate it to my mother. So everything about this book is about generosity, kindness, sharing, love, all the things that she personifies. Like, she is that kind of person. You Can Have Mine is symbolic, because if you say anything to her, she will say, "Oh, here, have mine." You know, like, I didn't need it. Like, I don't want it anyway. You take it. You take it. So I've written that in the book too. I think you don't dare say you want something, because she will ultimately take the shirt right off her back and say, "Here, have it," you know. But that's just the kind of person that she is. And today is her birthday, actually. She's 85 today. And so it's even more special that I'm doing this interview today and talking about You Can Have Mine.
Wow. And so how did she shape your life when you were growing up?
Everybody wanted to be at our house. Everybody wanted to be at my place, because my mom cooked and baked, and she was very welcoming, and it was a good hangout spot. Everybody speaks very kindly of my mother and how she just never got upset. She was never stressed. She didn't seem to worry about anything, and she was very welcoming to them. And we were talking teenagers, like 10 in the house at a time, you know.
Wow. Do you find too that nowadays, when we look at the idea of being a grandmother, people seem so much younger, whether they're the same age or not? We're living these long lives now. So we have, I know in my husband's side of the family, there's 4 generations as well. And it's amazing to see the impact of so many generations on the very youngest generation
Yes.
that is in the household. Do you find the same, that we have this new idea of what grandparents can be?
Well, I've tried to depict that in both of my books. The grandmother is kind of young and hip. I didn't want the traditional looking grandmother. I actually sent pictures of myself of how I dressed, so because I wanted them to make the grandmother kind of wear Lululemon and wear things like that. So like, grandmothers are young still. Like, they, just because they're a grandmother. I have a cousin who's a grandmother. She's just young 50s, you know, and she couldn't be any more hip and beautiful. So I wanted the grandmother to look like she was healthy and happy, and so I think the illustrator did a very good job, especially in the second book, where the grandmother's so active in the second book.
And that, I think this is fascinating for so many people at home who might have that idea that they've been simmering on for years in their head of a children's book. So when you went to your publisher, you're able to work with an illustrator based on your idea. That's how it works.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It was kind of neat. I purchased, I chose Friesen. I chose that publishing company because of what they had to offer, and I was a novice. I needed lots of help, and so they seemed to be, they would work you through step by step by step. And so when you finally get to the illustrating part, they give you a choice of styles, everything from like anime to caricature type styles. And so we would work together, and I would send in photos, and I'd say, I'd kind of like the grandmother to look more like this, and I'd like to have her wearing rubber gloves when she's doing dishes, because my grandmother and myself, we always wear rubber gloves. That picture is in there. Small little detail. But I liked this particular illustrator's style, and she worked with me very well, and I was really pleased with what she came up with.
Wow. And I feel like the 2 different styles reflect the different concepts of the book. Now, you say you're a novice, but I think almost 4 decades in the school system makes you quite an expert. I also think that is probably a reason why, with your focus on what the message is of each book, is so strong. And I love that the next book you're working on, just because I'd love to have you back when book 3 comes out,
please, yes.
has anxiety as the topic,
Yes.
which I think is one of those things that's hard to put into words when you're young. But when you have a children's book to explain maybe how you're feeling, a word like anxiety might not be the first thing you think of when you're young, but
Yes.
a character you can relate to. How was your background, not just in teaching, but also as a guidance counselor, so important to how you approached all the topics?
That's a really good question, because as a guidance counselor, young, and I worked in a middle school, so this is grades 6, 7, and 8. The kids would come and I'd say, "What's wrong?" "I have anxiety." They used to say, "I have anxiety." They would use that word. And I was like, "Well, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean I have anxiety?" Because anxiety, as we know, is a condition. Like, it is a condition, a disorder. But these little 11-year-olds were saying, "I have anxiety." So when I asked them, I said, "Well, tell me what that means and what that feels like." So when they would express how it felt, that's kind of what I wrote in my third book. It's like how they were actually explaining that feeling inside their belly. And I said, well, that is kind of normal. Like it was, we normalized it, is what I did. Like, it's okay to feel that way before coming to school. It's okay to feel that way before getting up and speaking in front of your peers. Like, it's okay to be a little anxious. We're all anxious. Not everybody has anxiety, but we're all anxious from time to time. So I was getting that. It was just like the bullying word. I'm being bullied. That became like a cliche almost. You know, everything was that under that umbrella of bullying. So if you just ask the child to tell me exactly how they're feeling and what do you mean when you say you're being bullied, or what do you mean when you have anxiety, they're able to express it in such a childlike, innocent way that is, anything is, it just feels like I have butterflies in my belly, you know? And yeah, I kind of have them right now, actually.
You're doing great. You're doing great. Retiring from the school system not that long ago. This is, for lack of a better pun, your latest chapter.
Yes.
What do you get out of it from putting these stories down and representing what it is to be a grandmother and to be a grandchild in a book form, in an art form that, you know, when your grandchildren grow up, they will still have this to take with them into their adulthood as a memory, too, of their time with you?
I initially wrote it was going to be a one-off. Like, I mean, I was just going to write these books. I didn't realize what was going to come afterwards because of the self-promotion part of it. I'm a teacher. I should be more comfortable with things like this, but it's really out of my comfort zone to be saying, come and buy my book. I wrote this book. It's, you know, because it's so personal to me. But I don't know, it's just taken wings. Like I said before, it's taken on its own thing, and I'm learning to self-promote better. Like, I'm learning to advocate for my books. I'm proud of them. I have a huge cheering squad, like my husband and my sister, and my mother and my brother. Like, I am very fortunate. And I also have a 37-year career of teaching, so people are coming up to me saying, I saw your book, or I heard about your book, or congratulations on your book. Like, so I'm getting more comfortable with sharing about it. And yeah, I mean, I am proud of them. I'm proud to be a grandmother.
Well, and I think, too, when you look back at teachers are always like that second either mother or grandmother in your life growing up.
Right.
So I think anyone that had you as a teacher, if they see you as an author, they will connect with you as that almost parental-like figure in their life, too, which teachers do occupy a huge part in our hearts that way.
Yes. I've received messages on Facebook and emails from students that are in their 40s now, like that I taught in Ontario, and they were like, I can't believe it. I saw your book. I went and ordered it on Amazon, like just saying how proud they were of me. And I'm like, I would have been saying that about them, you know, years ago. But it's a lovely connection to have people come back around in your life again.
Well, we are going to have you read some excerpts from the book now, but I think before you get started, where can people purchase your book? If they're watching right now and after they hear the reading would like to pick up a copy, where is it available? We know Chapters for sure in the Maritimes.
Yeah, Chapters in Atlantic, Canada. I just made it to Newfoundland like 2 weeks ago, so I'm excited about that. Shout out to Tony Arnold, who's the regional manager. He's a very patient man, because I spent a lot of time tracking him down and trying to get him to help me out. But I have it on consignment here in St. Andrews at the Whale Store.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes, it's at Tweedside Road. It's at Chesapeake Airport. It's at the airport, Fredericton Airport. I have it at Westminster Bookmark. I have it at Room to Remember, at Carrington & Co. at the Delta. Hope I didn't miss anybody because they've all been great about taking it on.
And I'm going to hold both those up now before we hand you,
Okay.
You can have mine to read, but this is for everyone at home. Never Waking a Sleeping Nanny is book 1, and then You Can Have Mine is book 2 there, which we'll have you read from. I think you've done great on your promotions, and what a great time for people too at home to support Canadian.
Yes.
It's a Canadian publisher
Yes.
from a Canadian author,
That's right.
homegrown New Brunswick too.
Yes, very proud of that. So You Can Have Mine is dedicated to my mother, Helen Robinson. And as I mentioned before, she is 85 today. So it speaks a lot about how generous and kind and giving that she was. And will I just read or show pictures or just do the
If
read?
you hold up, yeah, you can hold up if you like.
So the first page is I have a special nanny who spends lots of time with me. She does a lot of this and that, and she thinks that I don't see. Just how she talks to people, wherever she goes each day, chatting so sweetly with everyone she meets along the way. I put the words this and that in the story because my mom says that a lot, and that means something. She opens doors for people, and she never acts like she's in a hurry. She patiently lets others go first, and she never seems to worry. One time I dropped my ice cream cone on a bright and sunny day. You can have mine, my nanny said quickly. I didn't want it anyway. Which is true. She would say that. That's where the story You Can Have Mine. Nanny says there's enough love to go around for all of us to share. So do the right thing, she often says. Give to others. It's only fair. I have the kind of nanny all my friends want to be around. She is the best baker in town, it's true, and it's known all around town. She's famous for her brown sugar fudge, molasses cookies, and soda bread. When my friends and I come home from school, she makes sure that we are well fed. And here's Nanny with her rubber gloves on, because I always wear rubber gloves, and she's looking out her window, which is my grandmother's house. And the lamppost is significant, and I'll just read that page only about the lamppost. We always know when to stop at Nanny's because she uses a special sign. She leaves the lamppost light on, which means come on in for snack time. So when we would come home from school, my grandmother, if we saw the lamppost light on, we would be running in to get a chocolate bar or molasses cookies or a piece of fudge or whatever, but we looked for that lamppost. My sister now lives in her home, and so that lamppost is still there, and we think it's pretty special. So this sort of represents my brother and my younger sister and myself coming home from school. And on the very back, I did put, which I thought was just a neat little touch, I put my grandmother's brown sugar fudge recipe on the last page. Yeah. So it is one of those things that you have to make when the weather's right. It's finicky. She used to say you can't make fudge on a rainy day, but
And can you show people at home too that
Yes.
you've hidden on every page? I love this part of your
yes.
books too.
Okay, thank you
I'm trying
for
to think of
reminding
books
me.
I had as a kid, Go Dog Go, or things we'd look for on every page.
Yeah.
But in this, it's the ladybugs.
Yeah, but Never Wake a Sleeping Nanny. There's a There's a ladybug on every page, and I always wear my little ladybug pin whenever I go to the kids and read with the kids. So there's a little tiny ladybug, and on each page you got to kind of find it. Sometimes they're hard to find. It's like just little tiny one. And on the second book, it's a dragonfly on every page. So you can look for the dragonfly. He's over here. So
Does a
yeah.
dragonfly have any symbolism for you? I see you've got a brooch, a dragonfly
Yeah.
brooch too.
Yeah, it's the iridescent. It's kind of like the watcher. It watches over you. And I did hear an elder from the Willistic Way First Nations from my school. He said, "You know how significant the dragonfly is." He said, "Some say that it's a watcher, but it watches over children." And I said, "Oh," I said, "I'm going to put that one in my next book."
Perfect
Yeah,
symbol.
it's kind of like just kind of a special little thing that kind of is always watching.
So as we eagerly anticipate book 3 as well, and this is a trilogy, is there a chance then, Janet, that this could be bigger than a trilogy? That it might grow into something that goes beyond the 3 books?
I really think it might, actually. Yeah. I planned the trilogy because I was limiting myself. I was like, I'm retired, 3 books is enough. But I'm just bursting with ideas, and I feel like I need to get those out there. So there very well could be another book.
What have you taken from this experience? From really, I mean, I think what it's also really inspiring about it is it shows that you can start a new chapter as a grandma as well, start a totally new. I know it's a creative venture, but it's also an exciting business venture too, which I think can't be underplayed, just how impressive that is. And even coming here to sit down today, doing your own media tour, I think is just fabulous and so inspiring.
Thank you.
What did you get out of it that you weren't expecting?
I really didn't have any expectations, so that's a good question. I really feel very close to the upbringing that I had, and I'm very cherished. I feel cherished that of the upbringing that I had. I was very lucky, and I don't think I really realized it. I may have even taken it for granted, just how close we all were. We lived on the same street, and so I'm happy to be able to put that into words and put it into a book and share that. So it means a lot. I am busy, happily busy, but when you come from a 37-year teaching career where you don't even sit down some days, you know, you eat standing up, and you have that busy go, 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 go. I found that I needed to continue the go, go, go pace, and so I still teach at George Street. I go in probably once a week for the guidance counselor who replaced me, so I just go into my old job and my old office and sit in my old chair and do that every once in a while. I go to yoga like 4 times a week, trying to stay active, but this self-promotion and getting this book out has been a big job, but one I really enjoy.
Well, I'm completely in awe of you, just not only how fabulous you are as a grandma, you're Lululemon wearing stunning grandma who is starting a new chapter at the same time, but you're also representing tradition as well, from the recipes in the back to things like the lamppost being on, which are those gestures I think that your book really brings up, of the things that matter that we take with us, that become special symbols that don't cost any money, but are those signals of how much someone loves and cares for us.
Yes.
Was that something you'd expect would become such an important part of the book? Is those reminders of what our family does for us that gives us a feeling of love and acceptance?
Well, I had so much of that. Like, I ran into someone the other day who said, I remember you guys always got a Sunday bar. Like, after church, you've got a Sunday bar. And I'd forgotten about the Sunday bar.
What's the Sunday bar?
The Sunday bars. We come home from church and the lamppost would be on and we got a chocolate bar every Sunday after church. But we called it the Sunday bar because it was Sunday. But this friend of mine, who I hadn't seen for many years, she said, I was always jealous because you guys got the Sunday bar. You know, like things like that. And so I hope that someday, you know, my grandchildren say, every time I saw Nanny, or Nana, because I'm called Nana by some, that they'll remember some little thing that we did with them, you know.
Yeah. I was telling you that before you sat down today, just that moving home to New Brunswick to be around all the generations of my family has really cemented that in me, all those things that make it special, that give you those feelings of being cared for. And then also your role in the dynamic of whatever generation you're in, and how you care for those generations under you as well. So this is just a special reminder to me of how special New Brunswick is in those intergenerational relationships.
Yes.
We seem to be a province where we tend to hang out all generations, and that's really special too.
Yes.
So I can't imagine what it's like on your house, in your household, with 4 generations there in the same house.
Yeah, yes. Like, I'm very fortunate because our grandchildren are all in Fredericton. You know, I know some grandmothers whose grandchildren are in Australia, you know, and I just feel very fortunate for that.
Well, I'm hopefully your book can reach them too. If they are separated from their grandkids, it's a great way to connect and to share stories with each other still, whether it be from a distance or in the same city.
Yes.
I appreciate you so much coming in today, Janet. I hope you will come back for book 3.
Oh, I'd love to, yeah. I will. I will for sure. I'm going to have it out in 2026. So I'll be tracking you down again and saying I'm ready. So
Perfect. Well, I look forward to it. Thanks for coming in today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
My guest today has been children's book author Janet Robinson, author of Never Wake a Sleeping Nanny and You Can Have Mine. Those books are available at chapters across Atlantic Canada, as well as other bookstores, including the Whale Store here in St. Andrews by the Sea. I'm Vicki Hogarth. Thank you for watching Southwest Magazine.
Southwest Magazine is a news and public affairs production of CHCO Television.